Allison Rosen. Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison Rosen, Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone, hi, hello, welcome to another very exciting episode, excuse me, of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm sitting here in the studio with someone who has potentially been a guest more than anyone else, the most appearingest, like winningest guest ever. It is author, podcaster, commentator, my friend and yours, Katharine Ham.
Oh my gosh, so generous.
I feel like they were a little bit muted, though. They were holding
but
back.
You were not muted. And that's
right.
What matters to me.
Hello. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's like a pilgrimage every time I come out here.
I know. You were just on Mar.
I was.
How was it?
It was good. I have to say, at some point, I just want to come to California and hang out because every time I come, I'm nervous about the show. And then I'm nervous about playing my part on the show and doing a good job and getting my facts right and sort of being a little bit of a punching bag for part of the segment. And then am I going to get canceled for anything I said? And then the whole next day I'm nervous. And then I come here, but I know your fan base is so kind. So this is a little bit more of a like,
yes. So then when you say sometime you want to come and just hang out, you mean just do my podcast?
That would
and
be like
out.
hanging out. Yes.
Exactly.
But I mean, spend my time in California, like going for hikes and seeing sights.
Yes.
But, I got a lot of kids, so I can't just like run off and do that.
I used to. Now I feel like I don't do any of this stuff, and I would like to get back to doing some of it. But when I used to go to New York for work, I would always do a bunch of meetings while I was there because it's like you got to take advantage of the time you're there. But then I got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to go to New York for the thing that I'm here for, which at that point was oftentimes the Adam Carolla show. I'm not going to try to go early and like maximize my time because it's just too much.
Yeah. My 18-hour New York trips are not always pleasant.
Yeah.
Doing 17 things in 18 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. And I get up and back twice for election week because it's not the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like complaining about it, but because we got the kids at home, they wanted me for a dress rehearsal and election night. And that's just up and back 8 hours one day and 8 hours another day. And it's like, whew, okay.
Now you live in Virginia. How long does it take you to get to New York?
It's about 4 hours on the train.
Okay.
And you can fly. Some people fly. I like to do the train because you can just work on the train.
Right. It's probably less stressful than flying.
It's a little soothing unless unless you get the bad Amtrak luck and you're stuck on the tracks for several hours. That can happen. But it doesn't happen that often.
Right.
Yeah.
Tony Thaxton.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. You asked for it, so get ready.
Tony, play some kind of drop.
Wow. Oh my God. Can I hear that again?
Tony, play some kind of drop.
Oh my God. I want that to go on for longer. Didn't you feel like it was just getting started?
Yes, I felt like it was going to be featuring Ludacris at any moment.
I'll make some calls.
That's how good it was.
Just one more time, please. I'm sorry, Katharine, this is the rest of the show.
Tony, play some kind of drop.
Oh my God. That's so good. Now, Tony, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, feels really long.
You were traveling, and then your beloved, who I have been referring to her as your wife, and then my mother-in-law said, when did Tony get married? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're not
several
married.
years ago, but then he got divorced.
I left that part out. Yeah. That's how much she's just your better half. But anyway, your girlfriend got COVID. And so then I figured, no offense, well, that means Tony's going to get it. So we're not going to see him for
I
a number of
assumed
weeks.
so too. That was why I let you know as soon as I knew. But
Right.
I got lucky and I avoided it somehow.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know. Probably because you guys quarantined in your house pretty much.
Yeah, we did that. And then I had also just gotten my booster right before the trip and she didn't.
Right.
So I don't know if that's part of it or,
Was there any I told you so? Because the way you said she didn't felt a little bit like you're like, she didn't.
Well, no, but that's how she feels. I think she's like, I should have got it. I should have went and got it. I was kind of a impulse thing. I was like free the afternoon before we left. I was like, I'm just going to go do it. And she was worried. Sometimes some of them have made her not feel great afterwards. And we were traveling the next day. So she didn't want to do it then. And now she regrets it.
I haven't gotten, I don't either the last one or two. I probably should. Are you still boosting or are you over it?
I'm over it. The data's not super convincing on the continued boostering.
Right. Well, that's what I tell myself. I tell myself I have a firm foundation built now through vaccines and having it twice. So
I've had it only once, which sort of surprised me. But
and you travel so much too.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just having kids. They do say we might just have immunity to it from all sorts of stuff going through our house.
Right.
We may have had it and not known it at times because there's a lot of sniffles that go through our house. And if they were minor, we don't always check them.
Right. Mm-hmm. I really want it to be at just one. I want it to be a no time and then at just one time. And then each time, though, it's been the kids that bring it. And then we all get it, which is why I assumed you would. But anyway, enough of that. If there's one thing no one wants to hear, including me, it's discussions of COVID. But now you're back. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. Yeah.
All right. So a lot to get into. Big personal news. I'm wearing one contact lens.
Oh.
Ooh.
Do I seem different at all?
Yeah.
It's my big CL energy. Big contact lens energy.
Is this a strategy or a mistake?
No, it's so they refer to it as monovision. It's instead of wearing reading glasses, you just wear one lens that corrects that. So like one eye is corrected for reading and then one eye just has because I don't need distance correction. So I thought it was going to be really, really weird because they say
it seems like it would.
Yeah. They say it takes your brain a little while to adjust. So I didn't know how bad it was going to be, but it's actually not. Here's what I think is happening. I think that it needs to be stronger because I still can't read like really fine print. And as you noticed, when we looked at the photos outside, I'm like, oh, I can't see
what's in that photo.
Yes. But I can look at my phone and I can use my computer and I can, like if it's a pill bottle or something, I can read the 2 levels of text. It's just the smallest that you might actually want to read. I can't read that, but it's a little patchy. But my problem is I can't get the damn thing in or out of my eye. Do you guys wear contacts?
Oh, I'm terrible at it.
Okay.
I abandoned that idea years ago.
I feel like I've now put it in myself 3 times. So I'm very much a newbie, but it feels like it takes me 45 minutes each time. And I feel like I'm sweating and like it's very stressful.
It's weird at first, but you get used to it quickly. I don't, it takes me no time. I've been wearing them forever, but yeah.
I mean, so many people do it. Yeah. I have what it takes, I think.
Yeah.
However,
I think you can get there. I also think we should be well trained to just sort of be working in the eye area, given the eyeliner and the waterline. And I'm always messing with everything in there.
Me too. And I get like hairs or dog hairs in my eye all the time, and I'm constantly fishing them out. And I can do it. But for some reason, this situation, you know what it is? I have that. Maybe you know, Tony. I have the contact on my finger, and then I go to put it in my eye, and then I remove my finger, and it's still on my finger. Like I can't get the fucker off my finger.
This was my problem.
Maybe you just need to push a little harder than you think you do.
I think I need to push less because I think I'm pushing, and then I pull it out, and it's like inverted on my finger. I don't know. So finally, I called Daniel in because he used to wear contacts, and he said that I'm like. I think it's touching my lower lash line or my upper. I'm at the last minute, I'm like moving my finger. So I'm not going directly onto the eyeball.
It's just like that your lashes are so lavish.
That's right. There's like a Venus flytrap.
They can't be avoided. Yeah.
They're just eating it. So you had problems getting it off your finger onto your eyeball too?
Yes. the bang wasn't worth the buck for me, or the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, whatever. One of those
The bark
phrases.
wasn't worth the bite.
Yeah. One of those phrases. And I didn't enjoy it, and I never got dexterous at it. And my eyesight is not bad enough that it was like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And
Because you're
so
wearing nothing right now.
I'm not wearing anything right now. And I have some distance issues, but it's pretty far off and not really a problem.
Gotcha. Yeah. I really love the fact that I can read and I don't have to put on, because I was to the point where like I would be wearing my glasses in this room with you, and you're, what is that, like 4 feet away?
Yeah.
The zone of interest for my vision was getting further and further out of needing correction. That was the most mangled metaphor in the whole world. Anyway, so that's my personal news. Okay, let's go back to you. Okay, so you talked about all the anxieties. It feels like a strong word to apply to you. All the concerns you have going into Mar.
No, I think it's anxiety, because it's like, okay, I don't know. I don't do that show very often. I love doing it. It's very fun. I like that. I like Mar. I like that he is unpredictable, but because he's unpredictable, I don't know where he's going to come at me from. And
Do they send you any like stuff ahead of time?
Yes, we have topics, but again, I'm not sure exactly where he's going to stand on any given thing. I
Right.
think that's one of the reasons he's good television, is because he will surprise people on both sides. And so, and I know he's going to come at me about something, but I'm not sure what. And so, it can be nerve wracking. And then there's a lot of people watching. So then this is another thing. And this podcast is similar, where I'm used to doing live stuff and it just goes out into the world and then it's gone.
Yes.
His tape's a little early. So then I have to wait for 2 hours until I'm like thinking through everything I said. And it should have been better. And I could have been better. And I could have convinced more people, or I could have just said this the correct way. And so that can just be like a lot. Yeah.
Do you know, see what I often have the feeling of, oh my God, did anything I say make sense?
Yes.
And then I go back though and I listen, which not as often as I should. And I'm like, oh yeah, that did make sense. It's like something took over. Maybe in the moment I was a little bit disconnected from what I was saying. And so therefore I worry that like I just, barfed on the mic, but actually some part of me that knows what I'm doing did take over and make sense. I would imagine with you, it's the same. When
Yes,
you go back, it's like, it did make sense.
You have to have faith that you are a decent communicator. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you're doing the job. And even when you're nervous, and even when you don't get to say everything you want to say, which you're never going to get to do in certainly in a TV setting. One of the things I like about that show too is it genuinely is a conversation, right? And it can go a lot of different directions, and you're not necessarily pigeonholed into 2 minutes of whatever one topic you're talking about. So I just kind of have faith in that. But I don't love to watch myself. I've never liked that. Game tape is not my thing.
Do you feel like it would help you to watch yourself?
At this point, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Because it makes me uncomfortable.
That's how I feel about going back and listening. And I know, and I do though, like before a guest comes on, I go back and listen. So it's not like I never hear myself, but I do think it would benefit me to always go back and listen. But there's such a big resistance to that.
Yeah, I think usually once I get through it's going to sound so narcissistic. Once I get through the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is actually, I'm like,
I can't get enough of me.
This is great. Let me just listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, that is why they love me.
I noted. And but then getting through that first 3 to 4 minutes is like cringe.
Yeah. Tony, famous drummer the world over in Motion City Soundtrack and others. How do you feel about listening to yourself play drums or listening to your band's music?
I'm fine with it. I feel it's like the only place that I'm confident. So like I'm confident that I played well, unless I like literally was like knew something I did wrong or whatever, and get in my head about that. But if that's what you're talking about, just like hearing a performance or something after the fact, like that usually I might be bothered by other people. But
you know who messed this up? Everyone else.
That's funny.
No, sometimes Steve will watch something, or I'll catch him hearing something that I was on, I'll just run to another floor of the house. Like, la, 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 la.
How many floors are in your house?
Well, we're in a townhome, so it's like we just got kids stacked like an aircraft carrier on many floors, and we keep making new rooms to put them in. Like, just put a wall here. I'm sure that'll be fine. It's like a Manhattan apartment that we just keep adding little nooks to. So put the baby on that shelf. I'm sure she'll be fine.
Do you have anyone living in a drawer?
No, but I thought about it on the fourth one. No.
The concern that you'll be canceled over something you say, is that more on like an HBO show or on Maher than on, because you appear on TV all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure we're doing canceling anymore. There is
According to Justine Bateman, we're not.
Yeah, so like I don't really say anything that's off the wall. It's just a constant concern of like, you know, tripping over yourself. But it's not a huge fear. I just feel like you're not coming out for a vacation when you come out and do that show, because you are going to be studying, you're going to be thinking about it, you're going to be a little bit stressed out. So.
Right. So something I wanted to ask you about. So on a recent episode of Alice from Rose's New Best Friend, Daniel and I were talking. We were talking about introvert versus extrovert, and you are a renowned extrovert.
Quite extroverted.
You're very extroverted, yes. And I was telling this story of when you came to do the show many years ago, and I opened the door and I hadn't seen you in a while. And I felt like, and I was genuinely happy to see you, but I also felt like I need to be like, oh my God, hi, like give a big greeting to match how happy I am to see you. And you were like, hey, what's up? Like so chill. And I wondered on the show, is that the secret to being an extrovert, or is that an indicator of being an extrovert that, like, for me, maybe part of the reason being social can be draining is because there is an aspect of like, and it makes me sound fake, and it's not artificial, but it's like, I am thinking of how I'm coming across. I want to communicate certain things and I'm trying, versus you're just like more chill. And so you're not constantly like blowing your, social wad all over the place. But then you texted me and you said you might have been tamping down your response.
Yeah. So I think that you were playing up for extrovert and I was playing down for introvert. Because
to meet me in the middle.
We were both compensating for the other.
Interesting. Okay.
That would be my guess. Because I think my general affect is fairly up.
Okay.
Like positive.
Right.
And I would have been excited to see you too. So I might have just been like, don't over extrovert her. Because sometimes I do that to people.
What is that? I've never been over extroverted by you. Like, what does that look like?
Well, I joke that like, so when I started dating my husband, who's quite introverted.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I have to say, because he is in our backyard right now. And he was talking to my husband. And he was very outgoing and very easy to talk to.
Well, he got him on the right subject because they started talking about gains and supplements. So that is an area that he's very happy to talk about.
But he strike me as an introvert. That's so interesting.
Well, he's great in social settings, but it does not energize him the way it does me. He has to take a break after that and have his time. But when I started dating him, I was a single mom with 2 kids, so I didn't have that much time. I was working full time. And I always say, I'm glad it worked out that way for the 2 of us, because if I had met him in my 20s, I would have been like, let's hang out today. Let's hang out tomorrow. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's go to a party. And he would have been like, this is exhausting. And I would have been like, why doesn't this dude want to hang out with me?
Right.
So we would have probably missed each other's signals back then before I had other things to do.
Gotcha. Yeah. How's it going? Because with all the children in their various rooms. Last time I had you on was October of 2023, and your youngest one was 9 months old. Mm-hmm. You were coming off the end of the best hair period of your life because you had pregnancy hair back to back.
Yes. Oh, I miss it.
It was just starting to fall out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How's life now?
It's good. I don't have that hair anymore. I had to get it cut. I was like, you got to let go, girl. It's not going to be thick like that anymore. Mm-mm. And it's okay. I've adjusted and I actually like it shorter.
Yeah. I mean, it looks good.
At first I was like, ooh, did I go too short? But I like it. And so that happened. The kids are great. I feel like they're sort of easy on us, or maybe I just have rose-colored glasses. I don't know. They are 11, almost 9, just turned 3, and like a little over 1.5. So it's wild, but it's good. The my very regimented, schedule-y husband has the 2 babies, especially like on a great schedule, which is something I never did for my first 2 kids.
Yeah.
We were a little loosey-goosey at that time of our lives. And as a result, the babies are like, oh, it's our nap time. Oh, it's our bedtime.
That's
it's
amazing.
not always flawless, but they definitely know what time it is. They go on a
that's so
walk
good.
every day at 4 p.m. and they're like mad if I don't take them on the walk. Like if dad's out, their internal clocks go off and they're like, why aren't we outside in our wagon right now, Mom? Like little dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they understand.
Yeah, I remember in Mommy and Me class, people talking about having their kids on these are like mushy infants that are a few weeks old, about like already having them on, like trying to do a schedule. And I'm just like, he just eats when he's hungry, which is all the time.
Yeah, I don't do a newborn schedule.
Yeah.
I think
that's more for the mom.
I do that little I do the wake windows.
Yes.
So I time once the baby's awake, how long at this developmental stage can this baby stay awake? And I'm on my 4th baby and I cannot remember. It's in a little note on my phone.
I don't remember. I've only had 2 and I don't remember anything because I feel like whenever I'm filling out forms, there's questions about like, what age did he say his first word? What age did he sit up? What age? It's the kind of thing where at the time you think I'll never forget. And then 3 weeks later, you've forgotten. Yeah. I have to look at my photos.
You should see me at the pediatrician when they ask for the birth date of one of my children. And I'm like, hold on. I'm going to get it. And I do eventually get it. But there's a lot of dates in there.
Do you say the wrong name when you call them?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay, I do too. And I never understood how my mom did that and why. And I do feel guilty about this. She would get the gender of my dog wrong and I'd be offended, like, you mean she. But now that I have a girl dog and a boy dog,
right.
It's too much.
It's too much
to remember. Yeah. I just call them the guys.
No, there's a lot of rewiring of my brain that has happened over the years, and the kids are just going to have to deal with the fact that sometimes that comes out that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they deal.
So I want to talk about Thanksgiving, but I also want to talk about politics.
Okay.
Which should we talk about first?
Let's do Thanksgiving first because I'm tired of politics.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year for the first time ever.
Wow.
And I am debating how much to cook versus how much to just order prepared. Because we're a family that we didn't used to be. My dad used to do most of the cooking. And so everything would be prepared. But then at a certain point, he got like too old to still be standing up and cooking all the time. My mom does not enjoy cooking. She would do a little bit of it. So then it began to be a mishmash of like stuff that was ordered.
Okay.
So now though that I'm like, and I am very much an adult in terms of my chronological age, but emotionally I feel like I'm playing grown up because I'm having it at my house.
It does
my
feel like
sister's
that. I can imagine.
Yeah, my sister's family's coming over and my mom's coming over. So I'm like, I'll wear an apron and I will be in the kitchen. But I'm just trying to figure out like, do you guys make a turkey? Should I make the turkey? Should I just order it? No one really likes turkey anyway, even though I want to have it.
So I feel very lucky because we go to my husband's family's house every Thanksgiving, and his mom and dad are fantastic at it. A couple people bring side dishes. Mm-hmm. We usually bring a side or an appetizer type thing. He has a huge extended family that comes for this, and it's all somehow beautifully timed, and everything's warm and in the sweet southern serving trays and tastes great at the right time. And I don't know how to do that.
No, that's something that I feel like takes years of practice. Do they have 2 ovens? But they have 2 ovens.
They do have 2 ovens, I'm pretty sure.
And not 3.
And they do the turkey, I believe, in the smoker outside.
Okay.
And his mom's very good at this, at hosting this kind of thing. And so that's off my plate. That's off my plate, and I don't have to worry about it. And if I had to do it, I would be very stressed out because I'm not great at time management and bringing all that kind of stuff together. If I had to do that, I would have to sit down with Steve, who is my executive function, and talk about, okay, here are the things we're going to make. How does this work? And he would walk me through it until we had a plan, but I would still be very stressed out.
Got
so I
it.
feel for you.
Thank you. I'm weirdly not that stressed out. I think because I'm not trying to impress anyone, except maybe, years ago when I lived in New York, my mom said to me, and I don't remember what it was in relation to, maybe like me buying a dining room table or something. And she's like, do you really think you're going to host dinner parties? Like, so like suggesting I'm not the dinner party type.
Right.
So the fact that that so easily came to mind, I guess a little bit, I do want to show her that she was wrong. But other than that, I don't really care. Tony, what do you do? What's your plan?
The last couple of years, just Flo and I have just done it at home, and she's cooked, and she likes cooking. So she's just like, yeah, I'll do it. But we don't usually do, because neither one of us are big turkey. She's done just chicken usually instead.
I kind of like chicken better.
Yeah, I do too. We both like it better. So that's what we're just like,
all right.
Yeah.
But she cooks a chicken as if it's a turkey, like roast it.
Like a whole.
Yes, actually, well, I take it back. I think a couple of years ago she actually did some Cornish hens.
Oh, nice.
But
those are so cute.
Yeah,
Delicious.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that was the only time I've ever had one. But it was good though.
All right.
I think stick to a couple things that you feel confident in.
Yeah.
And don't overthink it. That'd be my strategy.
Like, would you do the turkey or would you just buy
I think
it
I would do
prepared?
the turkey. I generally am. I'm not a terrible cook, and I'm fairly good with protein, as they say on the cooking shows. The large bird would not scare me.
Okay.
I think I'd be.
Would you
fine
cook?
with that.
Would you cook the stuffing in the bird?
I
Controversy.
don't know, I'd call my dad and be like, "How do I make that giblet gravy?"
Can I call your dad?
Yeah, you could. My dad. He's my go-to for cooking. I'm like,
yeah,
hey.
he would have been mine, but the fucker died. So rude.
It was.
I needed
right
him,
before you need him.
I
for
needed
this.
him to talk about this, and then also my Owen wants a fish tank. Well, he wants a fish, and I've shared this on the show. I was thinking we'll just get like a fish in a bowl, but I feel culture has moved beyond that, and now all fish need to be in tanks for a number of reasons. So I'm like, cool, we'll just get a little tank. My dad was a tropical fish enthusiast. I could use his advice here too. Can't get in touch. Whatever. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking, and I want to know, am I leaving out any dishes? So turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. I like a green bean casserole with the onions on top. And
I love
the
a green bean
cream
casserole.
of mushroom soup. It's like my favorite part of it. Yams with either pineapple or marshmallow. Rolls, maybe a salad.
That's a lot of things.
Is it too many things?
I mean, it's all the good things, but it is
Yeah.
a lot of things.
It is a lot of things.
And I kind of feel like we need like some kind of carrots too.
Did
But
you say stuffing?
I meant to say stuffing.
Okay.
And gravy. Yeah.
You said gravy.
Ooh.
I know. Well, I started writing it down and I'm like, this is a lot of things.
Well, you got to make a cooking schedule. And then I something like sweet potatoes, you could stick back in the oven and
Right.
heat up. That's not a big deal, right? I don't
Yeah. Also, my mom said, let me know if you want me to make something. So I can farm something out. I can farm a few things out. But in that list I just mentioned, what if I were to take something out? Just the salad.
Yeah, who needs a salad
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving?
I mean, I like to have one, but yeah, that's what can go. All right. What are your traditional Thanksgiving dishes?
I mean, I think in the South we do a lot more mac and cheese.
that was on my list too.
Homemade
Maybe
mac and cheese for that. We do a stuffing that is like a sage stuffing that I love, but it's a little bit labor intensive. So sometimes my dad's like, I'm not doing it this year, and I don't know which side he's on this year. I might have to do it myself.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say if he doesn't do it, what happens? You
Sometimes
make it?
it's like cornbread and sage and turkey.
Sounds
and
good, yeah.
Giblets. It's fantastic. But it is a lot of work.
Labor-intensive. Yeah.
That was when I had my second kid. She came right after Thanksgiving, and I knew she was about to be born because on Thanksgiving I could eat almost nothing because late in your pregnancy, your stomach is like way up by your esophagus. And the next day I ate like a pound of that stuffing. And I was like,
She
oh,
moved.
the baby dropped. The baby dropped and she came like 6 hours later.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish, Tony?
To be honest, I don't really care about it that much. But like, yeah, like it depend. Like I like stuffing and mashed potatoes and gravy, but like, yeah, again, like I'm not a big turkey guy or anything.
Right.
I don't know. I
Are there
don't
any
care.
big turkey people? I feel like
They're out
it's a
there.
staple. Really?
They're out there.
Okay, listeners, if you're super into turkey,
Because like,
I want to hear from you.
think about people that love going to like Disneyland and getting the like giant turkey
turkey
legs.
legs.
That's
and,
true.
like, that grosses me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like turkey, but I think it's because it's a special occasion food. If it were not a special occasion food,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how excited I would be
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah, I don't hate it, but I'll take it. But I'm not going to choose it on my own.
Right. Is it because there's like ligaments and stuff in it? What part grosses you out? Is it the anatomy?
I think just specifically like walking around Disneyland with a giant turkey leg is, I don't know, even though I do like chicken wings, but like I don't love eating anything with bones in it. That always weirds me out a little bit.
Yeah. Are you like me? You don't want reminders that this is an animal?
I'm kind of able to like
Compartmentalize.
yeah, but the bones do kind of, if I start to like, oh, that's a bone, that's weird.
Yeah. For me, it's more like the veins and the what's the word? Not ligament, and not joint either. There's some other like tendons and just a lot of that.
I'm going to make this worse for everyone
Please.
because my friend who had a farm and
Oh, does she not anymore?
no, she moved, but when they had the farm, she had turkeys and she was like living off her animals and her produce and all of that and her dairy. And she was anticipating having the turkeys at some point. And she also had pigs. Hated the pigs, loved the turkeys.
Emotionally.
Like emotionally.
Yeah.
The turkeys apparently had great personalities and the pigs were like, no thanks.
Really? That's not what you
Yeah,
hear.
that's the opposite.
It's the opposite. She was surprised.
Yeah.
Right. My brother has a pig that apparently is smarter than anyone at this table.
She said the pigs were very dumb to the point of almost like sunburning themselves to death, just sitting in the sun. She had
They
to
made
like
themselves bacon.
move. Yeah, they should have like usher them daily out of the sun. Like
That
dum
is so
dums don't be there.
surprising. You'd never hear of dumb pigs. And maybe you only hear from smart pigs.
Maybe that's a survivorship bias.
Exactly.
The smart ones
Probably.
hang on. Wilbur hangs on. You know,
Yes,
it's not the other ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so did she end up enjoying them?
Well, I think she didn't with the turkeys because I told her that's a lot of pressure, man. Like, what if you dry out that turkey and then you like, is your friend?
Yeah. So then she decided not
I think
to.
she decided not to.
Okay.
This is hazy though because it's a couple years ago.
Right. Was she and I believe the word is processing. Was she processing them herself?
That was part of the deal. Yeah. No,
The deal she made with who?
with herself to
Okay.
do this
Yeah.
challenge where she was sort of mini homesteading was to get very up close and personal
Right.
with all of this. So I think that was
Must have
her
been hard.
job.
Was it
She-
hard?
Yes, but she's also been a hunter in the past, and so this is not exactly her first time trying this.
Right.
But it does, it's a hard thing to take care of animals, and if in the case of, for instance, goats, they are born and they're not doing well, there's,
Oh, yeah.
like you have to do what you have to do sometimes, or help the moms through really hard births. She had to do that as well. So I think it's tough work.
Yes. I think so too.
Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the Thanksgiving food.
Well, no, I just real fast. I remember saying something, probably saying what I usually say of like, I don't, I want to compartmentalize. I don't want to think about where this came from and stuff. And then David Huntsberger, who's going to be on a show coming up.
He hasn't been around in a while.
He has not. I know he's busy being a dad.
Yep. That'll do it.
Yes. But he worked as a rancher for a period of time. And he was saying that it wasn't as hostile as it's going to sound right now, but like that my attitude is really kind of it's more disrespectful to the whole thing, to everything that the rancher and the animal has gone through, which is fair. It's true.
It's a tough thing to do. And it's like, it's a privilege in our
Totally.
current world that you don't
Yes.
have to get up close and personal.
Yeah.
By the way, do you guys ever, probably not in California, fry turkeys?
People do. I never have.
Yeah, I've never done it.
Like where you get a big vat of oil and then blow up your house.
You can do it that way. There's also a safer electric fryer that you can put them in. And actually that is quick and delicious, and you don't lose any of the moisture of the turkey. So
I wonder if you could air fry a turkey.
You'd have to get a little turkey.
Yeah, or a giant air fryer.
It'd be a Cornish game hen instead of a turkey.
A quail. All right, let's talk politics.
Okay.
Just for a moment. Tony, play some kind of thing to usher this in.
Tony, play some kind of drop.
Oh,
That's
God,
gonna
I love
be
it so much.
That's gonna be one of my favorites.
That should be a ringtone. Ooh, yes.
Yeah, ringtones are huge these days.
Everybody loves a ringtone.
A text tone. Do they still have ringtones? Does anyone have a custom ringtone anymore?
I'm sure somebody does, but yeah.
That person is obnoxious. Whoever that person
Well,
is.
that person needs this. Play it again. I'm going to imagine someone's phone is going off. Is that you?
Play some kind of drop.
See, I said, is that you? Like, is that your phone? Whose shit's blowing up? Okay. Obviously, you and I, not on the same side politically.
No.
However, in the last year, I have found myself moving more towards the center, I would say. And I am very frustrated and angry. And the scales have fallen from my eyes in regards to the very, like the extreme left or the progressive part of the party. I don't think saying the progressive part of the party is right, because there are certain things where I think I am progressive.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying. Like
I do, yeah.
the loudest, most fucking annoying voices that I do think are like a cancer. That's an extreme way of saying it, but I just think they're they oftentimes hold the party hostage.
Disproportionate power, yes. For
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yes. And I think they're having these temper tantrums that are not helping anyone. And also I think after this last election, I sort of feel like I got to a point when I lived in New York where I felt like, okay, I need to completely stop dating, because everything I'm doing, nothing I'm doing is working. Like, I don't trust myself anymore. I need to just tear this building down to the studs. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Anyone here tear a
Yeah,
building
you got
down?
that.
Okay.
Uh-huh. You're like a contractor.
That's right. In my spare time. And rebuild. And I feel like emotionally politically, I'm a little bit there now too, where like, I'm the most open to joining a cult right now that I've ever been, because I'm like, our way isn't working clearly.
Yeah.
So I'm very open to understanding why people are voting the way they're voting. And I think I understand a little more than I did before, but like, you know, watching the returns, it's like, okay, I did not have my finger on the pulse by a long shot. I don't know. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Well, first, I think the idea of being sort of politically homeless and vaguely dissatisfied just makes you pretty normal.
Yeah.
That's a pretty normal feeling. And one of the things I've said before and after this election is to have grace for the idea that a lot of people are looking at two choices that they are quite dissatisfied with and deciding just like which one of these seems less bad to me.
Right.
Right. Now, there are super fans on both sides, and you probably know some of them. And particularly pre-election, that can be like pretty annoying. But most people are making a cost benefit analysis. They're not in the cult of whoever the party or the ideology is. They're just like non-ideological people who are like, here's a grab bag of things. Do I think this person will help me with them?
Right. Right.
So I think that's part of how to understand it. I actually was correct about my prediction this time.
You thought he was going to win.
I thought he was going to win. I thought that all of the data looked better than 2020, better than 2020, which was a close loss, and a lot of it better than 2016. In particular, his favorability ratings and his ceiling, what we call it, whether he could get to 47 or beyond %. Because a lot of people thought that's where he stops. So you just run a candidate who can get like slightly more than that.
Right.
You're golden.
Right.
Which is not an unfair thing to think, right? But I thought the data pointed to the idea that people were just going to go in and pull the lever, and that a lot of them were going to, I would not be surprised if a lot of them were shy about it.
Right.
And that would lead to the underpolling that we've seen for 3 separate elections now.
Right. Right. I also have come to what I've realized is because the sentence has started in a lot of different ways and I have not finished any of them. I'm just going to keep throwing out the beginnings of sentences and then when one catches.
Tony, play some kind of drop.
Yeah, let's hear it.
That again?
Yeah.
It's so good. Get mad.
Tony, play some kind of drop.
So good. Initially, I thought, and I think a lot of us on the left were like, how could people vote for someone who is going to do XYZ?
Right.
Who is going to round people up and ship them off, which is what he said in his speech, essentially, the day, the biggest mass deportation, day of liberation, all that stuff and that's just one of many things that I find existentially very scary. It is to me very, anathema to what I think America stands for. And I think our democracy and our way of life and all these and our values and all that stuff. And so it was very upsetting that so many people seemingly want chaos and cruelty and XYZ. But what I'm realizing is that's not what he stands for to a lot of people. And they don't believe that's going to happen. I'm sure that there are some people who are like, yes, I do want all those bad things, but they're a very small minority.
Yes, I think he's widely seen as a bullshitter.
Mm-hmm. Even among the people who vote for him.
Yes. And that Maher said last night, is he just spitballing? And I'm like, well, yes, which is like not responsible, but it is part of how people metabolize this kind of thing. On the chaos question, 3 in 10 voters voted for or favored total upheaval.
Right.
5 in 10, 50%, substantial change. Okay. So I think Biden was elected on a promise of returning to normal, and it didn't feel like normal.
But
a lot of people? It felt like chaos. And then, so when they were given that, and what they read as a continuation of it, versus once again, sort of a grenade situation.
Right.
Let's see how this goes. They chose, let's see how this goes. And this is the thing that you're reacting to among progressives, I think. The progressive tent and the power of those activists has a tendency to cut Democrats off from regular voters. Because
right, that's what I'm wondering is like how much is that you follow Daniel Ryan Spalding?
Yes.
Like how much did purple-haired girl cost us this election?
Well, I think it's not so much purple-haired girl as in that's like off-putting or something. I think a lot of people have actually a lot of tolerance for that. It's whether purple-haired girl or some avatar is in charge of the party and whether that party says, we don't like you, Latino working class prison guard. There was actually MSNBC interviewed exactly that demographic who came out of the polls, and he said he voted for Trump, and they said, why? He said, basically, because I don't feel like Democrats like who I am.
Interesting.
And I think the Joe Rogan thing is a very good example of this.
Oh, that she didn't do his podcast because someone in her campaign had a problem with it?
Right. And look, I think that was a bad idea because I think he's not a hostile interviewer. He's off the wall, but that's why people like him. He's going to ask you some weird stuff. That's why people like him. The reason people in her camp were so concerned is because many people on that side spent a 2-week news cycle trying to cancel Joe Rogan in 2022. He's bad. He's dangerous. His words are terrible. They must be shut up. He must lose his sponsorships. He must lose his job. Now, a lot of people looked at that and were like, I don't know, Joe Rogan's just like getting high and talking to people. I didn't have an issue with it. I said, like, let's not do this to him.
What were we canceling him over? COVID?
I believe it was COVID messaging. Yeah. And so then 2 years later, you come to your activists who truly believed this thing about Joe Rogan, and you're like, well, we got to go on the Joe Rogan show because Trump's going to go on the Joe Rogan show. And they're like, no, he's bad and evil. We talked about this. Well, if you think anybody who, by the way, used to be a Bernie supporter.
Yeah.
If you think anyone who's talking as Joe Rogan does and reaching the audience Joe Rogan does, which is giant, and you're having trouble with, if you think he's too icky to be on the platform, you don't get to reach those voters. And when you don't get to reach those voters, you neither can convince them nor hear what they are concerned about. And I think that was a big part of it.
That was for sure a misstep. How much do you think all of his podcasts, like, did the podcast deliver this election for him? Podcasting?
I think it mattered. And the story from behind the scenes, and I was saying this throughout, I was like, look, I don't know if there is a pipeline from Theo Von podcast listener to the ballot box.
That's what I was wondering too.
That's a pretty scientific process that Democrats are extremely good at, of moving people through culture to actually casting
Is that like
a ballot.
conversion? Because I just went to a Patreon event and they measured our like Patreon performance on conversion, retention, and marketing. So
or like
that's conversion.
Some people call it the engagement ladder.
Okay.
Right. So you become a volunteer, or anyway, but getting your vote in is something that young men don't generally do. And I had a lot of questions about, is there some process by which the 25-year-old guy listening to Theo Von is actually doing this, right? You're not just talking to him, but there's some signs that it worked. There are some signs that among young people, look, by the way, as somebody who's been against Trump in 2 primaries and been like, please put someone else up, I have to admit that the things he has done to the coalition are things that my people and my ideas have never done, right? So
Like
he
what?
won more young people than I think since like in the last 20 years, proportionally, young men more than young
I
women.
mean, the things
obviously.
he has done for the coalition.
Yes, like the parts that he has brought into the coalition. Minority voters, Latino voters. I can't remember right off the top of my head how long it's been since that number has been hit with Latino voters. George W. Bush was fairly good with Latino voters. But certainly with young voters, there were many elections in the middle there where it was like, well, I guess this demographic is just gone for a Republican Party in any sense. Well, it turns out it's not. They ran pretty close, even like not close among women in that demographic, but like not as far ahead as she should have been.
Yeah.
And I think some of that was backlash to the last couple of years. I think the young men in particular, possibly the missing a bunch of milestones during COVID, being ticked off about that. Told they couldn't be ticked off about that. I think that's part of it.
Missing milestones, meaning like not being able to go to prom, like that
right,
kind of
all
stuff.
that kind of stuff. If you think about if your adolescence is shaped by the COVID years,
right,
that's a rough road to hoe.
Yeah.
I said row. It sounded like I said road, and I do know how to say that phrase. Row to hoe. Okay. Yeah.
Road to hoed.
But that's
interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That so much anger could be about that.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of this was a protest vote to the last 4 years. A lot of it was, I'm not sold on the fact that she, even though she's a different person, is a different path. And one of the things that I think you're right to say, and I saw your Substack about, do you cut people off? One thing Democrats have to reckon with is that many of the people who voted for him are your people.
Yeah.
Just like last election, many of the people who voted Democrat were suburban GOP women, right? And they've lost some of that coalition, or they've lost some of that demographic. Now it's like, okay, Latino voters in red Pennsylvania, those are a lot of Trump voters, but they are Democrats. They're probably still registered as Democrats, and they were Democrats last time.
And I know that you're not a Latino prison guard in Pennsylvania, but
I am not.
I don't understand it, because he is up there saying, I'm going to deport all of you. Now, granted, he's going to deport people who are here illegally, but doesn't that look like a cop or a soldier or a whatever kind of deputized person rounding up people who look like they could be from Mexico? Like, what am I missing?
So I think this is a misunderstanding of that electorate. And obviously the Latino vote is split into tons of different groups. But there's a misunderstanding about the idea that Latino legal citizens would not be upset about illegal immigration.
Clearly,
they are
clearly.
upset about it.
Yeah.
And particularly in very, very large numbers. And they get concerned about the same things that other voters get concerned about, and a feeling of chaos and disorder, increased crime, or whatever's touching their community. Sometimes just use of resources that in many of the urban areas really did become a problem. You saw Eric Adams speak out about it. Chicago's mayor.
Eating of household pets.
Not that, did you know that Trump won Springfield, Ohio, by the way?
Sure.
Sure.
Anyway. Why not?
As the Republicans won a Puerto Rico governorship, right? After that joke was supposed to explode everything.
I
know. So I just think many liberals are reading things in Trump that minority voters are not.
Right. So are the liberals wrong? Are we taking him at face value when we should regard it as bullshitting? Or is it more like they realize that people are going to be rounded up theoretically? I don't know what the Day of Liberation looks like put into like the execution of it, if it were to happen. And it's just like, yeah, they are in favor of that.
Yeah. So I think they're in favor of some of it. I think what largely people are in favor of is the deportation of, in particular, violent, recurring, illegal criminals, right? Who are in the system, who you are getting and then releasing into the community.
Are there really a ton of those though?
It's not a super small number. Okay. I mean, it would matter to people that you are doing that part, because that's like, okay, look, if we want to be nicey nice about you got into the country, that's one thing, right? And I think a lot of people are fairly comfortable with a fair amount of that and always have been. But the part where it's like, you've committed 3 crimes, been thrown in jail and let out each time, and there's no deportation on the table.
Right.
People get pissed off about that.
Who's going to take them? Where are they going to go?
They're going to go back to their home country.
Right, but will the home country take them?
Yeah. But now we probably have to fly them. That's on us.
Send them on Spirit.
But I think when people hear mass deportation, first of all, I should put into context, and I think that the Trump administration should use this in messaging and be like, we'd like to hit Obama numbers. He deported 3 million people.
Yeah.
So I think if you start there, it gives people a harder time being upset about it. By the way, Tom Homan, who is the guy he's made in charge of this effort, was an Obama era appointee. And so I think it is a safety and a quality of life issue for a lot of people. And like, again, you told us you were giving us normal, Mr. Biden, President Biden, and we don't feel like we got normal. And they're, again, ticked off about illegal immigration in the same way that many other voters are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's, and a lot of rhetoric is frightening.
Well, no, and a lot of voters, this is a problem that I have as somebody who's ideological and thinks through policies and is like, well, what does this look like in practice?
Yeah.
Many voters do not
think about it.
Do that.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I think a lot of them also think he's overselling this policy. And if he says this, we'll get the deportation of criminals. Right. Like that's sort of the hope.
Right.
But a lot of people don't walk down the road to say like, okay, what are the unintended consequences of this?
Yeah.
I mean,
because to me,
as a person who worries about policy, unintended consequences are always something I'm worried about, but I don't think voters are. I wish they were.
Right. But now, are you envisioning the same unintended consequences I am?
Yeah, I see exactly where you are headed and what would concern you. Yes.
Right. Like
if it got so very heavy-handed and what that looks like.
Right. Like our neighbor who is here legally, but looks like someone who maybe might not be. I imagine someone knocking on his door, or like our neighbor turning someone in, or I just wonder. It's like I said, the rhetoric is frightening.
Well, and I think for the people who, again, Latinos who vote that way or are concerned about that, there's a huge difference between that happening and someone being arrested for DUI or for an assault,
right?
And then ICE being like, "You got to go now."
Yeah.
Like you had a chance, but you got to go now.
But is the idea on the next arrest they go, or like they've been freed again and then ICE just knocks on their door and is like, "Oh, hey, about that."
Well, I think generally the way it's supposed to work is upon arrest that the local law enforcement would tell ICE. Now, a lot of local law enforcement, because of different cities' policies, does not do that.
Right.
So that's where you get the let out in New York, went down to Georgia, committed another crime. Right. People aren't happy about that stuff.
Yeah, I just, and my understanding was it wasn't as big a problem as we were led to believe.
I think there is a general sense, not just in that area, and this is why I think you saw a lot of urban vote move toward the right. There's a sense of bad governance. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a bad product you're giving me. My kids aren't learning in school. The crime is worse. Even if you can show me stats that violent crime is down, I don't feel safe on the subway. I have to get an attendant to get me a razor at CVS.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it used to. And I hear this from New Yorkers all the time. I don't live in a city. But Manhattanites, New Yorkers are like, it did not used to be like this.
So much is vibes. I mean, genuinely, like you might have heard it on the show.
Right.
I said something about the economy and Daniel's like, the economy is really strong right now. And I was like, what? It doesn't feel, that's the thing, is that by whatever markers they use, actually our economy is very strong right now. The dollar is strong, but it does not feel like it.
Well, yeah. So macroeconomically, he's correct, right? And this is the disconnect, and it's not entirely vibes, because inflation isn't a vibe. Like, it just is. Yeah. The prices are high.
Not a vibe.
Even if, exactly. Even if the inflation rate is coming down, which it is, those prices do not come down. Now, there are some people who would tell you, and I don't think this is all of it, there are some people who would tell you that inflation just is an incumbent killer, and that's all there is to it, and you can't really get around it.
Daniel would tell you that.
And I think that's...
that right track, wrong track thing. Yeah.
I think that's a large part of it. And I think she had a really unique position, which was both an opportunity and being saddled with something that the whole party and she and Biden saddled her with, which is this very short run. But she did have a weird opportunity to be like, I'm different, I'm new. And she tried, but I just don't think it was selling. So the inflation alone, or the prices at the grocery store, is a huge part of it. And many people who rely more on macroeconomics or don't have to worry about going to the grocery store will tell you that shouldn't have mattered, but it really matters. And again,
but is that going to, but the grocery prices are not going to change under Trump, are they?
No, this is one of the things that he will contend with. And because once the prices go up, even if inflation is coming down, the prices do not necessarily come down. Right. So I think he will probably be given a small amount of grace, but he said, they broke it, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
So people will expect some kind of fixing. And that's where that's where the rubber meets the road. And in 2 years, people might decide, no, I didn't want upheaval, and you didn't fix it. He has the advantage of like not having promised normalcy ever. So like, like when things are weird, he's going to be like, well, yeah, I told you guys things were going to be weird. Right. So he won't be judged on that same metric.
Right.
I also think, by the way, maybe it's just me. This is one where I have to be like, am I overreading my personal concern? The part where Biden, I don't think, is capable of being president. And I think a lot of people knew for a long time he wasn't capable of it. And by the way, he's still president for a couple months. I think people were pissed about that. Like, I think there's
so too.
Don't tell me I can't see what's happening with my eyeballs. Yeah.
Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. That, to quote the Honorable Judge Judith Scheindlin.
Yeah. I think that was a problem.
Judge Judy, Tony, in case you didn't know.
I like that you're on like a formal name.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know her well enough.
Still on, by the way. Did you know that?
No.
It's weird you brought this up because I discovered this yesterday.
Wow.
Good. I hope she makes bank. But
she's like one of the, well, as of many years ago when I saw this report, she's like the highest paid woman in TV. I don't know if that's still true. It's probably not still true, but she's making bank.
There's a housewife that overtook her at some point. But I think, like, to your point, when you say you're looking at the list of things that Trump says that are appalling, there are other people who are looking at the other side of the ledger and saying, gosh, did they lie to us about this guy? And that seems like a problem to me.
Yeah.
And my groceries seem like a problem. And like, there's a lot, or some of it is like some of the government censorship during COVID of various people's messages, or the general vibe of cancel culture, that these things ticked people off and went on that side of the ledger.
I was talking to my Patreon people, talking I had made a post and people were commenting, and I was like, about, our feelings and why we voted the way we voted. And someone who voted for Trump mentioned how upset he was over feeling that he had been lied to about Biden's condition. And I hadn't even considered that. I mean, when I step away and look at what happened, even though I do think she would have been a good president and I wanted her to be president and I liked her and I found her likable, I can see someone being like, the way that he, was going to run, and then the debate, and then now she's the nominee and all that, like, okay, this party is in disarray.
Yeah.
I get how it looks like that.
Well, and again, you have to remember like two kind of bad choices. So that's right. What everybody's dealing with. I do think had the Democratic Party in late 2023 just admitted we need to do a primary, I think they would have been in a different situation.
Had you
now.
heard rumors about his condition, since you work in this world? Did you know?
Yes. And I thought you could see some of it publicly. And there were like, at one point it was like 70+% of voters, period, including a majority of Democratic voters, were like, he's too old to do this for the next 4 years. That's the thing that got people, is like, we can see this. We can see it publicly. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. You're telling me there's a different man behind closed doors, but I don't buy that. And when they had a chance it was like late 2023, when Representative Dean Phillips ran this primary challenge to Biden, he was like largely just shunned and people acted like he was silly. And his argument was, this guy's too old to do this for 4 years. And he was right. I think he deserves some apologies. He was on my radar at the time because I thought it would be healthy to have a primary process. Even if Biden ends up being the guy, he's put through some paces and that he's capable of it. Or if Harris had been the person, put through some paces, they're going to be the person. They've been tested. When she got out on the trail, she hadn't been tested in a long time doing that kind of work.
Right. All right. I think we fixed America.
Well, I do think that, I know it's like so cheesy, but part of the reason I come out to do Maher's show and I like to do your show is because I'm going to use an annoying parenting phrase, but models behavior of talking to each other and saying, okay, well, these are the ways that you can understand the way that people acted or the way that people voted. And I think, again, the thing I keep going back to for those who are upset, and I totally understand that, is to say these constituencies are yours, right? And this realignment is something that you're going to have to claw back by talking to the people you didn't talk to. I think among the subsets that swung hardest to the right by 10 points or more, they were all key minority Democratic constituencies. So you're not speaking the right language to those folks. And when you hear Trump being an asshole, maybe you're hearing it with different, more affluent, college-educated ears that are then projecting something on non-college educated working class voters when the non-college educated working class voters are like, I don't know, this seems all right to me. That joke didn't piss me off,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all in danger of overreading our own shit onto other voters. That's my whole profession.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, once again, I had this fantasy that it would swing hard. There would be a blue wave and it'd be like, oh yeah, what he's selling, people aren't buying.
Right.
And it really so quickly, I don't know if it was humiliating as much as just this like, oh my God, I did it again. I fucking did it again. And I didn't realize, because it felt like 2016 again for me. And so for that reason, I'm much more resigned. I'm just like, okay, this is the will of the people. That's surprising to me.
Well, and I think that's a better position from which to fight. Right. I do think, and this is one thing that Maher and Chris Cuomo was on with me as well. We all three agreed that the thing that people did in 2016 where everything was an 11, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. I said, like the Trump transition is like taking an edible, and it's going to be like fine for a little while. And then you're going to...
That was my Substack. That's my point. Like, all the stuff hasn't happened yet. It's a weird time to cut everyone out. It's too late. They already voted, and it's too early. All the bad shit hasn't happened.
And then you're going to hit a point where the edible's going to hit, and you're like, ooh, was that harder than I wanted? Right?
Yeah.
And for me, that was like Matt Gaetz. I'm like, oh, there it is. However...
And RFK, though, Junior?
Yeah, although I understand what his constituency is, and I understand why they're upset and want huge change. By the way, I would just say that my preferred name I've heard out of that sort of whole area is Jay Bhattacharya for NIH. RFK Jr., not my pick. But I think, and this is one thing I said before the election, the political power of these Make America Healthy Again moms is underestimated. And that constituency did turn right. And it's this weird...
The yoga wellness QAnon group?
Well, and sometimes I would call them like red-pilled hippies, right? It's like a convergence of right and left, but part of it is from an earned loss of trust in public health since 2020. And people feel betrayed in a lot of ways. Jay Bhattacharya is one of the doctors, Stanford doctor, who was censored, cut out, told he was an idiot and a grandma killer for having different thoughts about how we should do COVID regulations. So I like the idea of someone, like he was a person who was right about some things that were hard to be right about in a very tough time, and he's qualified to do this job, and let's put him in charge of it. And he's been critical of this agency, so as a change agent, he would be interesting.
Right.
I kind of feel the same way about Pete Hegseth, who is a more of a rank and file soldier guy who would be head of DOD. I have questions about him being in charge of a very large organization, but as a change agent who might be capable of understanding and changing something, I'm open to it. RFK is like, or Gates is like, do these people have the skills or the know-how or discipline to actually wrangle an agency?
And I just feel like, what the fuck?
I mean, that's like the more succinct way of putting
yes.
what I just said.
Let's do just me or everyone.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right. Do you have one, Mary Katharine Ham?
I do have one. My husband helped me think of one on the way over here. I was like, do you have any weird things I do? And we came up with one. This is from my childhood, I think, because my father does the same thing. Routinely, after cooking or serving the kids food or cleaning the kitchen, I will have a balled up paper towel either in my fist or in my pocket, and they end up lying on the counter or they end up tucked away in the kitchen somewhere. And it is because I view them as valuable. And we don't waste paper towels. And so if you've used it to wipe up like a small thing or wipe your hands, you put it in your pocket and then you use it for something else later. But often hours later, I'll look at my hand and be like, I
still have this.
It's a tiny paper towel from dinner. Or I'll find it in my sweatpants later. So that is my little conservation. Held over from my childhood.
I don't think I do that. But I do like to get a few uses out of one.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I like to get a few uses out of is a Kleenex. And I'm seeing this balled up Kleenex right here. I don't believe this was used for anything. But getting kids to blow their kids and boogers is a whole thing.
It is.
I used to volunteer in Elliot's class when he was in first grade. I have been volunteering again, but not on the regular schedule that I was. And I was like, I was a chaperone on a field trip, and the vast majority of these kids were very booger laden. And I was like, everyone is having trouble getting their kids to blow their nose.
But by the way, is this a thing that you ever remember having to be taught? Because I don't remember that.
No.
And yet with my children, I feel like I'm doing regular training sessions like it's Rocky. And I'm like, okay, we're going to try the thing where we blow our nose.
Yeah. No, I don't remember it. Interesting. We all just learned somehow. But anyway, with Owen, he'll be like, I don't want to out him. He'll be like, Boogie, you know, Boogie. And so I'll get a tissue and I'll go up and I'll go, okay, blow. Then he'll blow and, you know, did we get it? Okay. And then I'll use like the diametrical opposite corner of the tissue. And he's like, new tissue. So anyway, he is not very sustainable.
No, he does not want to conserve that
He does
tissue.
not. No, you guys.
I understand.
You know what I should do is like I should cut. No, I'm not going to do this because it's too extreme. But really, I need to cut up tissues because he will use it only once. There's no reusing of a tissue
you should.
for him.
Yeah, you should do that.
Make smaller ones. Yeah. All right. My just mirror everyone. And you mentioned earrings earlier, and that's what reminded me. So I pretty much just wear the same earrings all the time. I used to change my earrings all the time, but now that I have headphones on so frequently, I just wear these that are white gold to keep my piercings open because otherwise it's a struggle to get an earring in. However, since getting my colors done, which I've talked at length about on the show, now that I know I'm a true autumn and really the metal of choice for me should be gold, sometimes I'll put in gold toned earrings.
I was blown away
We
by
all
this
are.
information.
We all are. It's kind of the biggest news in Allison Rose News, your best friend land.
I was listening to the show and I was like, she's obviously a winter. Yeah.
It's
You're a high contrast autumn? What's happening?
pretty shocking. It's shocking.
I can tell because you look great in that color.
Thank you.
That one doesn't sing on me. And
Yeah,
I'm a winter.
I'm wearing a kind of a dark red that I know it's shocking. Cole Imperi, the one who turned me on to this color lady, Carol Braley, sent me this thing saying like as autumns we're middle contrast, whatever the middle one is, medium contrast.
Okay.
And I was like, I think I'm actually high contrast.
Yeah, you just must be you're a unicorn of an autumn.
I've been telling everyone that. But anyway, so I take out these earrings, I put other ones in, and I think I have an infection in the succinct way of saying this is if I mess with my ears at all, they get really irritated or infected. Why do I have Fabergé egg earlobes?
Yeah, I think mine are actually, this is one of the few things where I feel like I'm not very tough. I have to get very fancy earrings now because my old sensitive ears will immediately get irritated if I don't use decent stuff.
I mean, maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's that the post is not gold and maybe it's the metal, but I feel like it's more just the messing with the like putting in, taking out an earring.
Yeah, maybe so.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. We've had a whole journey of
You and your ears?
No, my children and their ears. I
What's
let
going on
both of them get their ears pierced when they turned 8.
Mm.
And both of them were false starts, went terribly, back to no earrings.
What happened? They got infected?
Okay.
My sister had to get her first holes done again.
Yeah, so we went to Claire's, which seemed like a totally fine option. My oldest got hers done when
For when you want a 13-year-old to pierce your ears?
I was trying to go like old school 80s, 90s.
Right.
Like
That's
I'm comfortable
how
with
we
that.
did it, yeah.
So I took my oldest. That actually went fine. And hers healed like no problem. And we were fine for a long time. Later, there was some sort of accident with one of them. And I'm just the content warning, if you're grossed out by things.
Oh no, did it pull out?
Yep.
The nightmare. That's the fear.
So
My armpit just farted, in case anyone's wondering what that was.
I know it's icky.
What, did it get caught on something? Did a kid pull it out?
No, I think it was a hair brushing.
Oh my, were you brushing?
No.
Oh, okay.
But when I tell her to brush her hair and she doesn't want to, she brushes it very angrily.
Oh no, this is awful. Was she freaking? Was she like screaming?
No, she wasn't. She was like, "Mom,
Maybe
I think
it doesn't hurt as
Mom,
bad
I think
as...
there's something wrong with my ear." And I was like, blah, 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 blah. "My child, what have you done?"
Was it very bloody?
No, but it was like graphic. I mean, even for me, I'm pretty tough, and I was like, "Okay, reassess." We'll figure
Because
this
you could
out.
see that it was just torn through.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where like, I'm thankful we haven't had a lot of like, knock on wood, like emergency room visits and that kind of thing. But we get these real weird ones like this.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, now I have to pay $500 for surgery for your ear to get it properly put back together because you don't know if it'll knit properly if you leave it like that.
Right.
And then the other one just had kind
Did
of
you take her to the emergency room? Or to a jeweler? Like,
we took her.
Who does this?
We took her to urgent care first, and they said you really should go to a plastic surgeon to get this properly done. And so we went ahead and did that.
You were able to get into a plastic surgeon quickly?
Yeah, that wasn't an issue. Maybe we don't have as much demand for it in Northern Virginia as you guys here.
Yeah, it's very difficult here, I imagine.
Also, it took him like 4 minutes to do because it's an earlobe.
You just numb it up and then do it. Yeah.
She was very brave. She's cool about that stuff. And then the other one just had immediately after hers were done, she's a very conscientious kid. The funny thing is that the conscientious kid is the ones that hers got infected at the beginning.
Right.
But at Claire's, they had given us too small an earring. So it got like a little lodged in there. And we had to do yet another weird urgent care visit for an ear. So we just took them all out and we're going to try again another time. And maybe I'll go to like the tattoo parlor and get the real piercing this time instead of the 13-year-old at Claire's.
Maybe.
It's possible I misjudged that. Yeah. Well, of the accidents we could have, this is fine.
Yes. Wow. That's an intense ear story.
I know. And our other weird thing, which I don't know, did I talk to you about it last year?
The tick in the bag?
Yeah, we did. We did have the tick. And nobody was harmed by the tick, just almost the CVS lady who had a tick crawling out of a bag at her. But my oldest had encephalitis last year.
Oh my gosh.
Was hospitalized for a couple of days. So that was very scary. That is a brain infection.
How did she get that?
We don't know. It was just a...
Wait, was she like all of a sudden speaking gibberish?
Yes.
Okay, I know some of this.
Yeah, she was. She had just a run-of-the-mill fever, and everyone in the house had this little cold virus that had gone through. But sometimes it can just take a wrong turn, and your body decides to attack your brain instead of the virus, or it's just. I remember at the time I had more medical and scientific knowledge about this, but now I've sort of like let it fly out. But it was very scary because I understood. I had more understanding of what it feels like to love someone with Alzheimer's, where the person's there, but the person's not there.
Right.
And it was horrifying for a couple of days. And we were so lucky. They did all the tests and made sure she wasn't meningitis. They did a little sleep study on her with all the nodes on her head and watched her brain waves. And it was kind of like her brainwaves were like sleeping brainwaves. And then 2 days later, she woke up herself again and her body had fought off this infection.
Wow. And had they given her IV antibiotics?
They gave her a bunch of stuff, but it was...
That sounds really scary.
It was not the antibiotics that kicked it. It was just her body fighting it off.
Yeah. Oh, how scary.
I know. And I had a 2-month-old at the time.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
This is very basic medical stuff. And maybe a doctor listening or anyone listening. I don't understand how we get infections inside our body. Like I understand bacteria from the outside world infecting something, but I don't understand just for myself. And I can't stand when people talk about dental stuff, and yet I talk about it so much. So
I know I've grossed people out twice over now with like brain and ear. So sorry, everyone.
I had a crown in a tooth, so healthy tooth, but it like for whatever reason they decided like the tooth itself wasn't strong enough. I needed a crown, and then I ended up many years later having to get a root canal in that tooth because an infection was forming at like the base of it was. So I've talked about it probably. I didn't know it was coming from my tooth. I thought I had trigeminal neuralgia. I had made an appointment with a neurologist because I'm like, I'm in the worst pain of my life and it's on this side of my face and I don't know what's happening. But anyway, then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, it is coming from there. But I don't get how like an infection forms it formed in the root, but it didn't come from the outside. It came from the inside. Do you guys understand how that happens?
Not really.
I don't. I know that when I had my whole saga with my arm.
Oh, yes, I know about this.
When that got infected, the doctor had told me, like, it can be, like, he said I literally just could have, like, bumped my arm on something that just caused this to happen. He says it can, like, the most minor things can cause it, apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a very obvious answer for how this happens.
And this is why I'm not nominated for HHS.
You could be. You could be. Yeah, my brain is just not able to understand this one. All right. Do you have a Podcast Pal product pick?
Podcast Pals product picks.
I do. So I've been using a spray facial cleanser.
Ooh.
And the reason I got it has a specific kind of acid in it that is like
is it hypochlorous acid?
Yes, that's antibacterial and antifungal.
Yeah.
The reason I bought it is because I have tween-ish girls who need to be washing their faces, but I can't rely on them to be doing it really in a disciplined way. And so it occurred to me, if this is good for sports and coming home, or outside and coming home, recess and spraying your face, that could take care of some of that for us. So I got that for them. There's an expensive kind called, I think it's like Tower 28, but there's a cheaper kind at Target called Prequel, which I got for them.
So Dr. Sam Ellis, who's a dermatologist, that's her line, and I follow her.
Very nice.
Yes, she's one of I don't know if you heard my announcement on the show that I used to think doctors were these like nerdy, studious people, but lately every doctor I meet is this like statuesque, tanned, blonde lady who played water polo. Dr. Sam Ellis is one of the ones.
Well, I was on Mars show with Dr. Casey Means.
Is she
who's
tall
like
and
kind of a
statuesque?
wellness, like she wrote a book called Good Energy, but she's a Stanford trained doctor who does metabolic health basically, and talks about disrupting the health system. But she is like statuesque with perfect skin, and at one point,
you're Miss America and you went to medical school? When did this happen?
and charming and smart. And at one point, we were talking about McDonald's, and she's like, "Is it really good?" And I was like, "Oh, girl."
my God.
I was like, "I don't want to get you down this road because you could go really off the rails."
She's never had McDonald's?
That's what it sounded.
Is she like 20? How old is she?
Oh no, she's like grown lady. I would not speculate because her skin is perfect
21-year-old
from her healthy lifestyle.
Right.
But she was. I noted that she was like statuesque and beautiful.
Yeah. What's
The
happening?
whole package over there.
I guess you only they're only allowing statuesque beauties into medical school these
Girl,
days.
don't walk down the McDonald's road with me. You don't.
What's your McDonald's go-to order?
Either single or double quarter pounder with cheese with fries and a Coke. Mm-hmm. I don't do it that often anymore. I used to do it more often, but can't be getting so undisciplined.
Okay, so the Prequel hypochlorous acid spray.
Yes. And again, for your kids who might be like a little bit getting into being skincare girlies, but they can't be relied upon to do their
skincare,
regular hygiene.
Yeah.
Hey, we're learning. We're learning.
When did your kids start bathing by themselves or showering versus baths? Do you remember?
It was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So they're tell all their business. Sorry, girl. It was a couple of years ago. I had to give them the process and walk them through it a couple of times, but they handle it now.
Because I have a 7 and a 5, and they're still taking baths with help. And I don't know when we cross over to like, oh, Elliot could start showering, but I still brush his teeth because that's what the dentist said I should be doing. He was doing it himself. But then the dentist said we should be doing it still. But I can't imagine him like washing his hair himself.
There's just too many teeth in my house to be taking care of that. So I'm sure that ball gets dropped every now and then. But he could shower on his own.
Right.
And my oldest has the hair of 6 humans, 6 adult humans.
Amazing hair.
Just the thickest hair you've ever seen. So I did work with her for quite some time to be like, okay, you really need to like get in there.
Yeah.
And actually wash it instead of just like, I don't want to lift your hair and see it's dry underneath. We can't do that. She's like a dog with a waterproof coat. Like we can't have that.
I think that's low porosity hair, according to TikTok.
Look at that. So I worked with her on it, but I think Elliot could handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Maybe that's something we'll do. So listen, based on the time, we are not going to have time to do a Patreon episode after, because we spent too much time talking now. But here's what I think we should do.
Okay.
I think patreon.com/Allison Rosen.
Patreon.
Thank you. Lots of episodes of The Friend Zone. That's my Patreon bonus podcast. And I was going to do a Patreon with Mary Catherine right now. However, there are many, or at least one, but I feel like probably more than one, Patreon episodes with her that are there now. So don't worry. Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. So, but people sent in a lot of questions. I think we should save them and then we should connect over Zoom and do them. But since I have you here right now, I'm just going to quickly look at the questions and see if there's any that I have to get to right now. Okay. Tammy H. Could you please give us hope for the future? Do you have advice on how we can all come together as human beings and also not fear for the world and country's safety come January?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this goes back to like I said, having grace for people who are making a decision between often two people they're not excited about. And they're just making a cost benefit analysis about who might marginally help their lives or not hurt their lives. Right. I think keeping your head about you. The press does not help with this because they jump at every single possible weirdness that they can find, often anonymously sourced. And by the way, that's another thing about the press is not well sourced in Trump world. So just be wary of what they're telling you.
Wait, break down what that means. It's not well sourced in Trump world.
The reporters reporting on Trump world, many of them don't have a lot of sources in those close circles because they are distrustful of the press.
Got it.
So just the anonymous sourcing and things like that seem really off the wall. Just because you can imagine that Trump being a very off the wall person could have done a thing is not the reason to jump immediately to that. And often reporters and media does a little too much of that. And I think it scares people unnecessarily. There are going to be some off the wall things, again, because he promised change. He was a change candidate. But I think I always say, and I know it sounds trite, but the hope is in your sort of daily interactions and is in the, dare we say it, vibes of your own life. Right. And, I know people are going to be sort of, there might be possibilities of people being very emotional by the time we get to Thanksgiving, because it's very close on the heels of this. And there can be liberal asshole relatives and conservative asshole relatives that you want to sort of limit how much you're going to engage on, particularly on this front. I think one of the things to do is, if you have concerns about engaging with relatives at an event where it might cause problems, you engage about different things, and that can be okay. And if someone is
supplements, Daniel and your husband are still talking.
So try something else. I know that sometimes people are like, these people are a moral bridge too far for me. I think that feeling will fade a little bit. And I hate the idea of people losing family and friends over politics, even though I do think, obviously, I think politics is important because I do this for a job. I think politics is important. I'm going to steal a line because policy is important because people are important. So I understand there's real stuff behind it. But often it is just people wanting to get to the same end and taking completely different roads, which all can sound very trite if you're very upset right now. I understand that. I've been doing this a long time. And even in my career, the pendulum swings have been fairly remarkable. So if you are somebody who is very upset right now, or actually for both sides, it's worth saying, it could change very quickly. Because I think this was a pendulum swing in reaction to something, and there could be a pendulum swing in reaction to Trump. I'd love if our pendulum swings got a little bit smaller in the middle. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like it's no, you know what? Who cares?
That's the spirit.
I was going to say something, but I got tired of it in the middle of it. I'm so glad you were able to do this. It was very last minute, which kept me on my toes.
Well, thank you for having me. I always appreciate your audience. They're always kind to me.
Everyone's excited about you being on.
Well, and I know that many people in the audience do not believe many of the things I do. Frankly, I'm politically homeless and dissatisfied at this point and have been for quite a few years. So many of us are there, right? And continuing the conversation is sort of the name of the game for me. So I'll keep at it, even though it makes me nervous when I'm on Mar.
But then you always have a soft landing place here.
It is nice.
Afterwards. Tony, thank you. Oh, Mary, Katharine, where might we find you?
You can find me at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. I have 2 podcasts, Getting Hammered, which I co-host with my friend Victorino Mattis, who's great and he knows about food and wine. He's a fantastic writer and book review editor, culture guy. And I do a podcast called Normally with my friend Carol Markowitz, who is a New York Post writer and columnist. And it is a political podcast, but the attempt is to not freak out. Both of them, actually, the attempt is to just like not freak out. We're going to talk about the news, but not make you lose your mind.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Tony, where might we find you?
Nowhere. I got nothing going on right now.
Great. Love that. Follow me everywhere at Allison Rosen, except TikTok, where I am the Allison Rosen. And I mentioned my Patreon. Please check that out. And then also I have a Substack, AllisonRosen.substack.com.
Substack.
Thank you. Please follow me there as well. Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show? We had a time, but now we gotta go.